execution in terms of playing out those late game team fights around objectives. The Rise ultimate definitely amongst the best options for finding surprising advantages in the late game, but definitely a hard one to rely on. You have to be very skillful to use it to its full potential. It of goes back to what we were seeing last game in terms of execution gap, as we do see ourselves loaded right on into game here for Rascal Jester versus V3. V3 still hunting for that first win, a very young, inexperienced lineup coming in off of that Academy success. Taking a look at the runes here, Oak, anything jump out to you as bizarre or a little bit comment-worthy?
I mean, we're seeing fleet footwork from Graves. That's a pretty a default for a lot of champions that want a little bit of this safer laning phase. On top of that, the classic Electrocute Nami, which people are seeing now. So if anybody isn't aware, Nami's E now procs Electrocute by itself through usage of other champions. This has been since Worlds patch, since 11.21 or 2.2 maybe. So very scary position for this lane to be in for a V3, and I think we're going to see Hachimecha through this topside start, specifically trying to path down towards his bot side to affect this matchup as much as possible and play through Soul and Secret to create some early game. Ooh.
We have an early dredge line coming out. That's the Glacial Augment finding so much slow the Ignite as well onto Secret. He was ticking very low, going to have to pop those pots, and
oh no.
Before the action can even get going, we're already back on our pause time. I will make no comments about Noodles here, Oak. I don't know about you. But yeah, we are just, of course, dealing with a little bit of a pause, so we're going to have to wait for that to get addressed. But already we're seeing a lot of action coming out in the bot lane. It was V3 who decided to get aggressive early, which maybe was not what we expect. We were talking about runes and sort of what could be looked at as interesting in terms of the runes. The Glacial Augment from the Nautilus I hadn't noticed, but I usually feel the Aftershock is more common on him. Some of these CC-heavy supports like the Glacial over the Aftershock. So that was interesting to see how much utility that added in that level 1 fight there.
Yeah, I think Nautiluses have been switching back and forth between this rune because Aftershock, Nautilus is on these engaged style support champions. Nautilus is on the squishier spectrum. I think obviously Leona having access to W. I think once the Aftershock runs out, Nautilus tends to be a fairly easy pickup point for some teams. Glacial's going to make it even more so. But in return, you get access to that 15% damage reduction. So I guess trying to help the lane out just a little bit from a very scary position is looks like a little bit buggy. Don't worry. I think, Ashley, you talk about potential level 1s. With the lack of heal coming out from Rascal Jester, I think they do want to create as much space in the level 1 before Nami Lucian really gets online on that level 2 spot, because lack of heal means, really low effective HP from this bot lane.
Yeah, it was the cleanse, of course, coming out on the side of Rascal Jester, needing to avoid some of that ever-present and overwhelming Nautilus CC. That champion is, of course, the concept of crowd control dialed up to 11, which does make him so fun to see played. As we do get another look at the runes here, gives us a little bit of something to analyze while we are waiting for this pause to be resolved. And I mean, it's fairly bog standard across the board here, Oak. We have the phase rush for both of these mid laners. Maybe you would have liked to see the Syndra try and press the lane advantage a little bit, as typically Syndra the lane bully, Rise going to outscale. What do you think? Anything else that pops out or stands out? Oh, never mind. We don't have the time left to get into the runes, as interesting as they may be, because we're right back into in-game action, and it's V3 making full advantage of the priority they secured for themselves in that level 1 trade.
Yeah, Dress Code doubling down on the traditional sword start and going boot start instead, just wanting as much effective HP out of this long lane as possible. This does make him a little bit vulnerable to level 2, but as we can see, they secured that with that level 1 threat, so they're going to have a little bit of slow push coming into this lane, and they're probably going to try and make this bounce before Hachimecha shows his head, because remember, Hachimecha did a leashless start, so V3 have no idea where he started, and they won't until they spot him on these wraiths down in bot side.
Yeah, you see the ping coming out. They know there's vision on it, so he knows he's going to show if he does take those raptors. So he opts to walk past instead, going right to the red buff.
Brilliant.
This still does give them some amount of information, because they have to think it's a little bit curious that these haven't been started yet, but definitely a very good wherewithal. And now it's Unica coming down through the river to back up his bot lane. Wave in a bit of an awkward spot to try and force something, but maybe going to try and find out Hachimecha here, see what he can see. Here comes the Xin Zhao approaching the tri-brush. Unica, does he want anything? He thunders down the clap of the lightning. He is chunking him oh so low. The flash already forced out, and the flash follow! The first blood picked up for Unica there. Big plays coming through from the bear. It's already 1 kill for V3.
God, and as the meta establishes itself, we see more and more kind of angles towards the Xin Zhao blind, and Unica making a really big statement for this Volibear here. Fantastic early game damage. Obviously, he was really on point with dress code to get the snare on top of that, and then flashes forward to pick off that first blood there, and yeah, really shutting down this initial clear path from Hachimecha. We see, you know, managed to avoid all this vision, doesn't have any vision here, and we see, I mean, just look at the burst coming out here, and perfect from Hetel here on this bot side to actually engage onto Secret and Soul to force them to not be able to rotate up towards that tri-bush, and it means that Secret was pathing up and drops the ignite, but it just wasn't quick enough. Unica picking up first blood. Fantastic for V3.
Yeah, we have looked at V3's bot lane as a weakness perhaps before. Dress code not being lauded as much as Marble, who was a part of that Academy roster last summer, and they're sort of proving us wrong here in this early game. Is Unica not giving us time to think? He's already back again. He's bringing down that lightning. He's splitting the sky. He's forcing the flash out of Eno. He's ticking oh so low. The red buff, and Washidai will pick it up there under the turret on the grave. So Unica, he's everywhere. He came out of Middlecot's fridge with the buttered noodles, went straight from bot to top, and he is forcing plays everywhere. You love to see it happen.
Yeah, really good. And the big thing was that he went straight from bot side, does a reset, and heads straight towards top side because he sees that vulnerability there. For Washidai, knows that they can pick off the Jace, and this helps Washidai not only pick off the first kill as well, which really helps him look towards and it does look like his itemization is leaning towards it. We see him also shouldn't have to burn. Okay, does burn the TP anyway, just to maintain a little bit of space in lane.
Yeah, he is going for that Hullbreaker rush, you would have to think, with the early phage picked up. Definitely a fun bit of tech we've seen all across the eastern regions recently. Lots of Hullbreaker versus Hullbreaker top laners, and it's going to be interesting to see. You know, normally this sort of arose out of a way to counter out these roaming tops, right? But in the straight 1v1, can he make full effect of those bonus resistances to bully out, you know, a little bit? You know, the Jace you typically think of as the long range, the high damage used to secure a winning top lane, but with that kill already in his pocket, Washidai might just get to the point where he can't be pushed. He can turn himself into an immovable wall of stone that can't get forced out there and create a lot of stability for his team, already playing with the lead. It is about 1,000 gold, the lead for V3. It's Dress Code and Hatel just trying to break this pseudo freeze here. It's only 3 minions, so it should slow push back out. Just trying to hasten that, get themselves into a safe position. But now it's Unica here, who is moving on to the Windrake, utilizing that pushed lane to go and get that first Drake for himself, start the Drake stacking for his team.
Yeah, I think when you see this freeze, Unica actually really quick on the response, immediately head towards the Drake, especially with Syndra priority means they get to pick this up for free, and V3 really making aggressive early game advances, and it's good for them. They want to do this through the Syndra, through the Volibear as much as possible. They extend it. This is really what we wanted to see from this draft. Now we're going to have to look towards the next 5 minutes and see how they can push this even further, because we're seeing level 6 hit both from Unica and Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Yu-Gi-Oh! Even. So how are they going to try and accelerate this gold lead that they managed to push through the top side through the rest of the map? And yeah, watching the Volibear, eyes on Unica to see if he can use this ultimate to maybe look towards any potential dives.
Yeah, that level 6 coming through, going to be able to find those turret dive angles quite easily. It's what Volibear excels at. It is interesting to note here that it's actually Yu-Gi-Oh! Who has fallen behind just the smallest bit in CS, not going to be able to catch much of that wave that's under turret now before it bounces back out. And he is on the early game pick, so you would like to see Unica now maybe devote some attention to him, but it's the 3v3, it's the dredge line that connects. The snare does not, but over the top comes Unica. He's trying to find extra damage. Hatel ticking so low, he doesn't have that aftershock to keep himself tanky, but in the end it's just a wash. It's just Summoner's Trade. It's every Summoner blown for both supports there, but nothing doing in terms of the kill score. Yeah,
largely successful for Rascal Jester there. They get Unica to burn the ulti, and whilst this does, you know, we saw Hachimecha is currently a level down, it means he didn't burn the ulti in effect. So once he gets his clear up towards topside, he's going to have access to that, going to hit the level 6, and this means in turn maybe he'll have his own aggressive play to look towards.
Yeah, definitely so. And it's going to be interesting to see as he was opting for a moment, thinking about it, pondering whether he should go to his red buff instead, going to be pathing up to blue, and that would put him in a good position for potentially a Herald play with this pushed up top lane, or even look for those dives with the level 6 ticking over. Just checking in across the board, it is the slight CS leads in both solo lanes, but it's not doing much to equalize the gold lead that's been found through the kills. It is still that steady 1,000 in favor of V3, as Hachimicha doing a little bit of the pizzazz, a little bit of the sparkle, the two camp clear at once that you do expect to see out of these junglers that are definitely far more skilled than me, because I die every time I try it. But we're just sort of waiting for that shoe to drop now around the Rift Herald, right? Because the Windrake has been taken, there's no bot lane plays available, and it's 8 minutes, so it's time for the Herald dance, and it's going to be interesting to see with the bot lane moving up first here from Rascal Jester, if there's any sort of contest coming out from V3. It doesn't look like it, Oak.
Yeah, I mean, well, Yu-Gi-Oh actually cancelled his reset to maybe contest this Herald. Does look like they're going to give it away anyway, just because of Secret moving towards his top side here. Actually, the whole bot side from Rascal Jester's moving up, which means that, yeah, they are going to pick up the Herald, but in turn, this means that Unica is looking for the pick on Eno.
He walked forward maybe a bit too early, but the Chilling Smite is out. He finds the slow, he finds the Sky Splitter, and the damage will be found. Washidai now picking up another one. He's having a great time, as if we actually look across to the Jace, assuming he's not building the Gore Drinker, which, not something you really see on Jace. I think he is also opting for this rush of the Hullbreaker. It is the double Hullbreaker rush, as we so often see.
I saw the Ruby Crystal, and I wasn't sure whether to point it out already, but yeah, because of that, it does look like it's going to be double Hullbreaker start for top laners, which, I mean, this item is so incredibly strong. I think a lot of solo queue players have been building it, especially these tank top laners have been building it for a fair while now, specifically the Scions, you know, the Urgots. But it's really starting to see head when you look at its effective gold stats. Already a gold efficient item by itself, and then when you take into account the bonus stats it provides in that solo lane, goes up to 190% statistical value, which is just ridiculous. And that's ignoring the passive it gives to minions as well. There have been a couple of breakdowns on this item already, but yeah, really impressive.
And yeah, definitely interesting stuff to see with the double Hullbreaker. I think the question becomes, you know, do you get that same value out of it if it's matched 1-for-1? You're already so far behind as Rascal Jester, 2K here in the early game. As it's interesting to note that good old Kazu has offered his opinion on this game. He says V3 is coming to win, and they hard won draft, and it's over. So shout outs to Kazu for letting us know what he thinks of the game. As now it's Washidai, who is once again just chasing down, you know, just bullying him here in this top lane. Hachimicha has been found in his own jungle, having to use that ultimate just to block the unleashed power. Now Washidai going so deep, but he won't connect on his own ultimate. Does force out the flash, goes flash for flash, and we'll get to push this wave in. But V3 feeling themselves a little bit here, wanting to push that advantage, wanting to continue the snowball, and getting really aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, low-key kind of agree with Kazu here. I think they're making, not only is it a good draft, they're making fantastic use of it. I think the Body Bear's been such a good tool to get some early game pressure points in the side lanes that maybe wouldn't have found them by themselves. And on top of that, with the Syndra, meaning that looks like they're heading towards second Drake already. And whilst they are red side, which means Hachimecha's going to have plenty of opportunity to steal this dragon away, especially when we're looking towards Soul Point. It's a really good start for V3. And I think, you know, we were questioning them just a little bit. 0-2 start already, and we saw that Rascal Jester looked incredibly strong in both of their games. Even the DFM game, DFM looking so dominant this split already, only 2 games in. We really kind of were giving the edge to Rascal Jester, as they do. We were giving the edge to Rascal Jester, but largely V3 handling this comp really well. Now, when we get towards mid game, we're going to be looking towards Rascal Jester, specifically Gale Force on Lucian, Rise on completed item, combined with Xin Zhao being such an oppressive fighter against some of these longer range damage threats. How are they going to fight successfully? I think looking at Secret and Soul specifically and seeing how are they going to press their lead as a really just disgusting damage combo. But there's a fight, looks to stance. Washidai's on the flank, and they have the whole of V3 moving up towards this lane as well. So it
yeah, it was a bit of a game of chicken there.
Oh, it's a very scary position for Rascal Jester to be in, but they just end up giving up the space.
I was on the edge of my seat waiting to see were they going to overextend there, but in the end it just kind of fizzles out. But yeah, I mean, everything you say obviously goes back to what we thought the win conditions were going to be. It was this very hard early game index, right, from Soul and Secret into the Lucian Nami, and we expected this to be a strong point on the map for Rascal Jester against V3, but they didn't find those advantages. Instead, it was Haytel who was trading aggressively level 1, setting it up for Unica to come in and give them the advantage in that bot lane. And now, does this damage scale up? As Rascal Jester going to drop the Rift Herald, it will get the charge off here, guarantee them some plates before they do fall. Not going to be able to force the first turret because of the wave state, but good to get that guaranteed gold before it does expire. You don't want that Rift Herald going to waste. And it's going to be interesting to see if the Lucian damage can scale up into the mid-game, right? As you point out, where these fights are going to get a lot more explosive, a lot more interesting. But before we even have a chance, it's Ino who might be overextended once again. Yeah, the flash is still not up. Unica coming in, he finds the stun. It's the CC layer. Yu-Gi-Oh! They were kind of playing with their food there for a second. Who was going to take it? Who was going to grab it? But in the end, it is the Syndra who picks it up. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Now in on the party, picking on poor Ino up there, but he finds his gold. The trade, it looks like, though, will be the first turret bonus for Rascal Jester, so I think they are not too perturbed about making that one, as the gold lead actually very narrow, only about a kill's worth now with that first turret bonus.
Yeah, V2 putting a lot of energy into topside, but they didn't really give respect to that Herald being used so late to pick up some initial plates, which means that as soon as those plates go away, Soul and Secret can pick up that turret. And I actually was going to question this Herald usage just because we saw that V3, really, they probably wanted to put it towards their topside when they went for this Herald, because they assumed that Jace would be getting a lot of wave access and getting some shoving into Washer Dive. But I think we're being...
It's been... A little bit of crossed wires. It's been a little bit of mixed up priorities, it seems like, so far for Rascal Jester, as they played around, the topside objective. They were able to get that Herald with no contest, but they weren't able to convert much of it for a lead for poor Ino, who, again, has been the victim of targeted harassment here over and over again in the top lane. And now it's V3 moving towards this second Herald, wanting to prioritize the fight around here. They know they're stronger, and without Dragon left to be traded, it's still a minute 30 to go on that spawn. As we take a quick look at the turret plate gold, it was mostly plates picked up by Rascal Jester, and that's why they have a slight gold lead right now. Despite being down 4 kills, they picked up a lot more standing gold with those plates.
Yeah, and a lot of that gold is going to be on these 2 carries here, which is really pivotal for these fights. We want to see Soul on recap and see how they can potentially push this lead, especially with double mythics being bought up. The fight starts.
Yeah, it's going to be a close one here as they abandon the Herald at about
Yu-Gi-Oh's
half
cut
health.
off.
But that's Hache Mecha getting... Oh, it was Yu-Gi-Oh! Who got picked off in the back line. Hache Mecha was chunked out, but will that matter? Can he get back in? Can he find the smite steal? So much kite out damage, but it's not going to be enough. He's chasing them out. He's chasing them down. Dress Code running for the hills, but now it's the Realm Warp over to the other side. He's going to find the multiple members, but they have the escape path. The Accelerated Shock Blast only going to find Unica, the Sky Splitter, to escort the exit. And V3 just biting off more than they can chew. Now the immediate Herald back down. They said, well, take it, and now we'll use it to force down another tier 1 here. And just like that, everything crumbles to pieces for V3.
Yeah, recap and the rest of his team. What a successful fight for them. They get to pick up this turret here on the top side, as well as create a little bit of CS deficit. And luckily they had the wave state in bot side slow pushing back in as well. So we're going to get to watch a replay and watch Yu-Gi-Oh! In this fight. So I think Recap and Soul and Secret play this fight perfectly here. Hachimechi gets his ult burn early, but look at Yu-Gi-Oh! As soon as he shows Soul and Secret identify and pick him off here. Soul playing super aggressive, knowing he can tank out that damage. And then Recap here. Remember, with the Syndra dead, look at the potential damage coming out. He knows. And look at the damage point he finds here. Burning out Hatel, really limiting that initial engage. And yeah, amazingly played from Recap there to pick up that first kill and then trying to follow up, but they get to pick up top turret as well. And suddenly we saw this early game from V3 look real good, but that first turret in combination with the double mythic picked up by Recap and Soul meant that they get to play through this mid game perfectly, pick up another kill and unlock a turret on top side. And this means that now all the focus is going to be towards this mid lane tier 1 to see if they can continue this pressure that they've now built with a 2k gold lead.
Yeah, absolutely. As we do get back into live, it is the soul point for V3 as they pick up their third Drake. It will be the Hextech Soul on the Rift. And it was interesting to see at the beginning of that fight, right? Yu-Gi-Oh, he's on that flank position, but he doesn't connect on the Scatter of the Weak. So once he's put up this big flag announcing where he is without finding the CC, he was just completely cut off, as you point out. And it's so much damage lost in the tail end of that fight. But V3 still able to play around a win condition, right? They have this Hextech Soul still ready to go. They have to stabilize. They're only down about that 2K. It's a complete flip from what we saw before as they were up about 2K, but that's not the most impactful to 18 minutes. You don't want to let slip any further, but it's not the end of the world right now. You have some scaling advantage as opposed to the Lucian, but this Rise definitely going to be an issue coming into the mid game as we look at where the gold is sat on these particular teams, and it's Recap who off the back of that fight definitely getting richer and richer. It's the Everfrost coming out. Could this be the full tank build? That looks like the Winter components coming out for Recap.
Yeah, I was going to say, looking at the draft, they managed to produce themselves an incredibly squishy comp, so I'm not surprised that Recap's opting towards a tankier build, especially because look at the amount of follow-up his team has. Getting off that initial Rune Prison is going to be really important for starting any key fights on squishy members, and going tankier means he can walk up just a little bit further, so I'm really happy to see that build.
Yeah, going to give him that beef he needs to stand up to the tactical assault of the long range, the Scatter of the Weaks, the snares coming out from Jhin. And it still does a bunch of damage, Oak. That's what's so amazing about it. All that mana scaling on Rise means he can abuse some of the tankier items like Frozen Heart, like the Winter, and still find himself a decent amount of, influence in terms of the damage in the fights, getting down those machine gun EQ combos. But now we're just sort of waiting for the objectives to hit the map. I mean, RJ doesn't want to opt into anything, too soon. Wants to cut off this soul win condition for V3, so not going to let themselves get picked out ahead of it. Got a few minutes yet to go. It's the Baron that'll be up soon, but I don't see either team opting towards it too quick, as there's not really the DPS to burn it down quickly for V3, and Rascal Jester not going to want to throw on the other side of the map and give the soul away for free, but now it's Mecha caught out. The ult having to come out so early, but is the culling finding so much damage in return onto the front line. Haytel running for his life, but now it's Recap is coming in. The Everfrost won't connect. The Flash has forced the Spider-Man out, and that's so many resources burned away from V3. It was a great response by Rascal Jester.
Yeah, I think we saw this pick come up from Hatel. What they're really doing is trying to create a little bit of space so they can set up vision just a little bit more. We're seeing a real focus in this team to get some of that initial vision so they can use their pick comp as well as they can. But unfortunately, Rascal Jester just a little bit more damage at the moment, and it means that Hatel's having to burn that flash, and that's going to be pretty awkward for him for the next couple of minutes, because if we look on Rascal Jester's trinkets end, we're seeing 4 red trinkets come out for this team. They are trying to limit Hatel and the rest of his team in terms of vision as much as possible, so they can play up and play as aggressively as they need to, just to set up for some of their more unreliable picking or fighting options.
Yeah, we see the Eclipse picked up here for Washidai. I like this a lot better than the Bloodthirster we saw coming through in our last game for the side of Burning Core. Excuse me, the Eclipse just offers so much damage and a decent amount of sustain as well, between the healing, between the shielding. As Unica, you don't want to overextend here. Right ahead of this critical Hextech Drake that will be your soul potentially in 40 seconds. It's a tense atmosphere as these teams are just jockeying for position back and forth, but now it's RJ who have the tempo, who have the time to move up and get their deep vision. Haytel getting chunked out a little bit by that accelerated shock blast in the mid lane. They're bringing in the TPs. It's the 5v5 angle. Unica holding tight, moving forward, splits the sky, but not going to connect on anything. 15 seconds to go on this Hextech Drake. Trying to generate the mid lane priority as Washidai, but you don't want to go too far forward in the attempt to do so. But now it's Dress Code who's been found out. It was the wind becomes lightning onto him, but it's not going to result in anything. That Glacial Augment hastening the retreat for the side of V3, and now it's the Hextech Drake started up by Rascal Jester. They burn through this so quick with the Lucian that it's already gone. Can V3 find anything in the back end? So many low health bars. Haytel will be the first to fall, and now it's Mecha using that ultimate to keep himself safe. Washidai on top of Baino, Soul chasing him down, getting these light bursts out, and it will be another one. It's 4 kills now for Rascal Jester, and it's a team fight victory. They're headed right for Baron.
Yeah, they managed to break off this Drake combo the V3 were on. They stopped the soul from being taken, pick up 2 kills on top of that, and shut down Washidai. Washidai was going to be the person we were looking towards for a successful fight for V3. Get that pick off on him, and this should be the Baron here. Now, reminder, this team comp is very squishy, whilst Unica as well as UGO have access to the ulti. They get the first kill, second kill.
Yeah, recap, just able to play goalkeeper there so effectively. He's so tanky with this Rise build. V3 thought, oh, well, this is the mid laner, you know, playing overextended, trying too hard to defend this Baron tank. We can just kill him, but it wasn't. He had them trapped. He found the plays, and the Baron goes over to Rascal Jester off the back of it. It was such a promising early game from V3, but now Rascal Jester really showing their strength, playing these fights in the river so much better. And it's just going to be a very hard tide to stop now. You still have that Hextech Soul to play around, but with so much gold, with the ballooning gold lead off the Baron power play, there's so much room for Rascal Jester to expand the lead and never let them near that pit again. As we do get the replay of the fight, it's as you say, it's Washidai who has to be the big carry in this situation, and he just gets picked out, and it opens up such a window for Rascal Jester.
Yeah, mid turret gets unlocked for Rascal Jester. This is the final tier 1 that we were looking towards. And especially with this Jace, that's really where they want to be with this Baron, sieging as much as possible, and we see them continue this vision eradication. Oh, what a huge... Okay, well, Scatter the Weak doing a lot of damage to Secret. Hopefully he doesn't get picked up again. This could be a bit of space for V3 to try to nullify some of the presence the Baron's having on the map. Recap in side lane now. Look at the items completed real quick. A recap on 3k HP as he's sieging down this turret. They want to unlock as many tier 2s as possible whilst this Baron is still up, and maybe even look towards an inhibitor.
Yeah, definitely so. As Hazel, oh my god, where did you go?
Massive.
Soul cutting through him like a knife through warm butter. And now it will be the first tier 2 to fall. This mid lane tier 2, not where the most gold is. It is in those side lane tier 2s, but still so much gold picked up. 3,500 is the power play so far coming through from Rascal Jester, and they're not done yet. They have Recap and Ino in the side lanes, continuing to find value as Washidai struggling to clear out these Baron minions. And, I mean, Rascal Jester is just in such a commanding position in this game. You saw UGO land the Scatter of the Week. You thought maybe it was the angle, but Hatel, as we pointed out in the pregame, not a tanky support without that aftershock. And when he gets found out hard and punished severely.
Yeah, really hard for him to proc that Glacial without burning the depth charge, and we see it there even with the depth charge, just gets completely picked off. I think So actually played that really mechanically cleanly. He E'd in just as the Scatter of the Week came in from the side lane to avoid that, as well as picking off. Hachimecha has to use the ultimate. I don't think it's going to result in much, to be honest. Rascal Jester do lose a little bit of tempo. They've already unlocked all the turrets they need. That's a load of standing gold picked up as well, and we're seeing that through the gold lead. 10k for Rascal Jester. This means third items are going to be getting introduced now. We see Essence Reaver, IE now on Soul. This is the big power spike evolution. This is the mid game the ideal mid game you want to see on this champion, especially with the Imperial mandate from Secret here. Gonna be so much potential damage, as well as on top of the Fimbulwinter, we see a Force of Nature picked up for Recap. So he is really leaning towards tankiness and initial or follow-up engage for his team.
Yeah, definitely so. We saw the buddy system come out from V3 there. They tried to move into their own jungle to clear out the offensive vision. They missed that one stealth ward in the wolf pit, but it will expire in time, that it won't be used for one of those sneaky flank plays. 45 seconds yet on the spawn for Hextech Drake, but the ebb and flow of control went back to Rascal Jester, so they got back in, got their vision down, and they are feeling completely unbothered. They're in their own lane, they're flourishing, they're moisturized and ready to go to get this Hextech Drake in just 29 seconds, as it's so hard for V3 to approach them here.
Yeah, exactly. Getting an initial pick is so hard because look at Hachimecha. Repeatedly has been picked off and immediately uses the Crescent Guard to stop any potential follow-up. And this has been the name of it so far. Now they're all fishing for damage here. We're going to see which fight is successful.
The poke was actually really good onto Soul, but now it's Hachimecha who wants his turn inside. He has that Crescent Guard once again to try and block it out. The stopwatch as well, so well timed. The culling mostly not connecting, but Yu-Gi-Oh does fall in the back end. Recap picks it up, but the Spider-Man was not there. Oh, Hazel couldn't connect with the dredge line. It might have been another pick, and the depth charge does find Hachimecha in the end, but doesn't result in much of anything. And it's still Rascal Jester with full control. It's still Rascal Jester claiming the dragon.
Yeah, and this is that gold lead really showing itself here. We're going to see in this fight, look at how little access Soul has here. Chunked out right at the start through this Scatter the Weak, as well as some other pick tools, and it means that he's out of the fight. But then we get to tune our eyes to Recap, who in this fight creates so much space for his team, and it's the reason why this fight actually ends up going even. So Soul out of the fight. Hachimecha also heavily chunked. This should be a really successful fight for Yu-Gi-Oh! But look at Recap, just constantly pushing up and getting super effective damage onto Yu-Gi-Oh! And what can they do after that? All of this physical damage doesn't really mean much as they continue to walk up, and yeah, disgusting from Rascal Jester, really pushing this gold lead, to be honest, as this looked like what could have been a very successful fight for 3-3.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he just has so much room, does Recap, to play these fights like a Chad. We saw him flashing the wall, full aggression mode, to get his damage down, because he's made of pure tank stats at this point, working towards that Frozen Heart as well, which will also unlock access to even more damage off of his mana scaling. And it's just Rascal Jester now slowly choking out V3. They haven't had the access to the objectives, and with 20 seconds yet to go on this second Baron spawn, I don't see many angles for V3 to find the contest. The waves are continuously being pushed here by Rascal Jester, and they're just trying to keep this zone of control with the deep vision, with the pinks that we do see, and now Hachimecha is even going to clear out some of this defensive vision. So V3 definitely stuck between a rock and a hard place here. Now they might have Yu-Gi-Oh caught out. Look at him. He is going to get stunned up, going to get rooted down by the Everfrost. Recap doing it again. Oh, the CZ layer just disgusting there.
Yeah, well, it makes sense because he's built full damage, so he should kill him in one rotation, right? Yeah,
I mean, yes,
I'm just
absolutely.
wondering, with all these tank items being built, Hull Breaker from both carries and top lane, and then just full tank Rice here, are we going to see buffs to tanks anytime soon? Because I feel like these are the champions that should be building tank items, no?
I mean, maybe as this Baron does go down quite easily for RJ, maybe, you know, you can attribute some of that to it was Secret getting the Imperial Mandate proc down as well, added a lot of damage. And Electrocute, yes, down to Recap's rotation there. But still, just a disgusting amount of tools in the box for Recap here, between his capability to tank things through and still do absolute boatloads of damage. But it's Rascal Jester, once again, you know, with the run of things, with the run of the map. They have the Baron power play, you know, in their pocket, ready to go once again. Less standing gold for them to collect off the back of it, but this base could be ready to fall to shambles as V3 won did a little bit of a cheeky Fnatic brush, but they just get spot out by the Scryer's Bloom.
Yeah, really difficult to set up for these picks that they're looking for when you have Baron getting shoved into both sides of your lanes. It means that, you know, that claw is ever approaching, right? And this means that Rascal Jester are going to push up their vision line just a little bit, and we're seeing it show here with these pings getting lined up in the enemy jungle. And now they're looking towards a double siege point with the Rise being so tanky. It's really not a pick option for V3, so he's going to freely shove in these mid waves as the rest of the team rotates towards this bot side, and they're trying to unlock the first tier 3 of the game and maybe look to unlock an inhibitor, because at that point then the game becomes really difficult for V3.
Eno got bullied so hard, and now he's redirecting that. He gets to get his revenge as these shockwaves are hitting like a truck as the first inhibitor does fall. He's on the Man Immune, he's on the Eclipse with that last Whisper as well, and he's just absolutely concussing the side of V3 around these objectives, pushing them back, and oh no, Hadel, he doesn't connect, forced to use the locket as he eats a lot of the culling. It's just things falling to ashes, falling to pieces around them. It's even the wave available here, Hook, for the third inhib to fall as well.
No, fantastically set up from Rascal Jesters here. They set up their top wave, like literally 45 seconds ago. They had the wave set up to slow push in, and they hit this inhib time at the exact time as the wave comes out. Not going to be looking for anything though. Yu-Gi-Oh may be looking for a pick here, but
yeah, it's Hadel continuing to try and find the dredge lines, but it's just no luck coming through. And it's Yu-Gi-Oh! So far behind on this Syndra, was never able to find the acceleration off the early game, but maybe it's Soul caught out, forced to cleanse, but he flashes the other side of that tricky bit of geometry. Now it's Hachimecha in the front line, just zoning back the damage. Washidai wants to try and take him out, but he just can't do it. He's forced to stopwatch. Soul is low. He has the depth charge on him. Can they access him, though? I don't think they can. The Scatter of the Weak doesn't do its job, as Unica will fall. It's Washidai who should be next as the flash forward chatting from Eno. He is absolutely hulking out in this one. Dress code will just be another domino. No, Kenny turned around, actually. Now he's opening up with the curtain call. It's going to be the defensive Realm Warp. But at the end of the day, it is still 3 inhibitors and endless streams of super minions here.
Yeah, and I don't think V3 are in any position to contest this third Drake here. Recap going to try and pick this one up, and what looked like almost a game-winning play there from Rascal Jester ends up in dress code, flashing forward, getting a huge pick, and even with the bubble, I think the 2 carries from V3 being up was pivotal there for that turnaround. It means they get to just grasp on two fingers hanging on the edge of this game here, still trying to potentially play this out, and we'll get to see the fight here, and you can see Soul getting chunked out immediately, just like last fight, was a big indicator for Rascal Jester maybe not having as successful a fight as they want. And once again, kind of goal checking them a little bit here, but Dress Code and Yu-Gi-Oh! Doing a really good job of breaking down as much of the defenses from Rascal Jester as possible. Even with this Scatter the Weak not working out here, Recap gets slowly but surely burns down by Dress Code here, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Even without the mana, comes back in here just to pick off Soul with a Scatter the Weak and pick up a second kill. And this means that even though all the turrets did end up falling, get a little bit more space for the team. They're still in a very tricky spot, though. Now we're going to be looking towards Rascal Jester in terms of how they can finish out this game. And without the Baron, it does mean that they're going to be walking in, just like we saw in that last fight, potential scary points as if they can land and Scatter the Weak.
I mean, just run it down mid here, boys, no? I mean, look at this naked Nexus. You have 3 waves of supers. You lost the long, drawn-out fight just barely last time around, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Already getting chunked. It's the tidal wave coming out. Hazel does connect. It's the CC layer. Now Unica over the top. Can they actually find onto Eno? He does run them back, and now it is V3 who will fall around their Nexus. They just have to retreat into the fountain as RJ is going to pick up the victory here, going to pick up the Nexus. What a turnaround from them off of what looked like such a strong early game from V3.
Yeah,
but
I think
in the end,